Hello, hello, cats and kittens and non-binaries with your mittens. I don't know where that came out, but here we are. Welcome back to the Star Wars Generations podcast. I've had a lot of caffeine today. Erin is sending me Phantom of the Opera TikToks, so that's on
Yep.
my mind. But we're here to talk about the Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 14.
Absolutely, yes.
What do you think of this episode?
Oh my god, crazy shit went down this episode. Also,
Mhm.
I don't know if this was our theory. It was definitely your theory. And then also, whoever was in the chat last week suggested the Zillow Beast would be back, and here he fucking
Yes.
is. Here he fucking is, or she, or they. Doesn't matter.
It
But the
was the
Zillow
chat
Beast
that
hasn't
first
returned.
suggested it. It didn't come to me, but I jumped on it. Oh, and it's so good. Like the way this is connecting to the other pieces of the universe in ways where I feel like, and again, listeners, let me know.
Mhm.
The idea that there is this just huge monster that the Empire is raising, I think makes total sense. And so I feel like
Yeah.
you could have never heard of the Zillow Beast or that arc in Clone Wars and still be happy with the episode. But for those of us who saw those episodes and know the Zillow Beast is still alive, but terrible things are happening to it, it was like, to me, that is the definition picture perfect way to do an Easter egg.
It was so good. And I loved well, I mean, I don't love it because it's like animal creature abuse or whatever, but like the concept of keeping the Zillow Beast in water because like electricity is how it feels itself, like was just
Hmm.
a cool and sad concept.
For sure, for sure. Give us a quick episode rundown for those who didn't see it or are having trouble remembering it.
All right. So the episode kind of opens up and we see the Bad Batch. It has stolen an Imperial shuttle and they are suctioned to the bottom of a medical or a scientific transport, something like that, on its way to Tantus. So Echo is on the medical transport, um, you know, espionage style, doing things from the inside. And then on the outside are Crosshair, Wrecker, Hunter, and former Admiral Rampart.
Right.
So they get there, they detach. Immediately, Hemlock was expecting them because Scorch, who's a commando from the Republic Commandos video games and books, fun fact. But he's the main ARC trooper that we see here. Or, yeah, I guess technically just commando. I don't know. Government ranks. Anyways, so they kind of crash land on the planet as they're found out, and then they're trying to make it to the base on foot. We see Echo rolls up at the base. He's like, sweet, kind of sneaks his way out of there, steals a hand from a droid that he killed. So that's cool.
Hmm.
Gives us the classic, thanks for a hand. Echo dad joke.
Hmm. Very appropriate.
And
Fee would love
then,
it.
right. And then in other news, well, he meets up with Emery. Not meets up with, but happens to run into. And she like recognizes him and calls it out. It's like,
Yeah.
Echo, that's your name, right? He's like, who the hell are you? So that's like an interesting little conversation they have. Um,
And he
and then,
does quickly figure out who she is and
oh yeah,
is very harsh with her in terms of like,
yes,
you let Omega down, you have to fix this now.
yeah, totally. Because she's like, Omega said a lot about you. I'm Emery, and he was like, oh, she said a lot about you too.
Yeah.
Do this like you're a clone. How could you be doing this and experimenting on other clones? And then he
And she
says,
tries the like I was just following orders thing, and he is not
"Yep,
having it for good reason.
mm-hmm. I was doing my job."
Yeah.
He's like, "All right, sure, whatever, lady. Where's Omega?" And she says, "In the vault, but you'll never get close to there without my help." And she says something about, "We'll never get the children out of there without my help." And he's like,
Hmm.
"The children?" And she goes, "Yeah, Omega's not the only child being held here at
Right.
Tantus." And so that's like a real quick, like, oh fuck moment for Echo. Um, Speaking of Omega, though, we see the children in the vault. They're kind of minding their business. They notice that like the scientists have kind of changed their activity because they know that there's something incoming. So they kind of
Hmm.
called off a lot of the scientific kind of procedures that they normally would do. So the kids are like, "What's going on? What's that loud noise?" And Omega's like, "Those are laser cannons because my brothers are here." And the kids are like, "Okay." And she's like, "Cover for me." And they go, "What does that mean?" She goes, "Stall. I will be back." And then she crawls through the wall pipes where the droids transport their blood samples. And that's when she sees the Zillo Beast being zapped and experimented on. And
Mhm.
she then Dr. I want to say like Spanner or something, like this other doctor comes in with a droid, and she's like the female doctor that's been butting heads with Emery over the last couple episodes.
Right.
Um, anyway, so she comes in to test all the kids, and they try to stall. "Oh, I'm still hungry." That was cold as hell. This kid goes, "I'm still hungry." She said, "It'll pass."
Yeah, which but it does not. It does not pass until you're about to die. That's when you
That
stop feeling hunger.
is not how that works. Yeah.
And she the whole time, she never refers to them by name. It is always specimen and their number, and
SP-45.
it is so clear that she has flipped that switch that just allows her to, like, not see these people as human or, as sentient living beings, and it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, no, I don't fuck with her.
Mhm.
Anyways, Omega makes it back just in time, to be expected, because she's a baddie.
Yep.
Um, and then yeah, that's kinda the end of the episode. Omega goes, "I saw something big," I think is what she says, and she says, "And I have a plan to get out, but I'm gonna need your help."
Yeah.
And then executive producer Dave Filoni, created by Dave Filoni.
Yeah. No, it was so well done, and I like, you kind of knew all along that the batch was not just gonna rescue her while she's lying around helpless, that she's gonna rescue herself, and the batch is probably gonna be like, oh, you've already broken out. Okay, let's help you along." And the
Yeah.
idea that they're gonna free the Zilla Beast, which, to be clear, and they have said, uh, it basically is a huge Godzilla-looking monster. We only saw a small part of it in this, and it's very intentionally named the Zilla Beast. It is supposed to be, and the episode is very much kind of a tribute episode to the Gojira, as it said in Japanese, the Godzilla movies of old. Um,
Mhm.
Here's my thing though: do you think that's the original Zilla Beast, or do you think that's a clone?
Hmm. It could go either way, I guess. I
Right.
don't know. It would almost make me feel better if it's not the original one,
Mhm.
but, I mean, that would mean the original one is probably dead, but, like, at least
Right.
it's not being tortured anymore. Like, part
Mhm.
of me would feel a little better about it being a clone for that reason, but at the same time, then you just have the entire issue of clones of, this is something that's was brought to existence for a purpose that is not of its own accord, and that's fucked up
Right.
also. Um, so yeah, I don't really know which would be better. I kind of to me, I felt it was a clone. I
Mhm.
didn't put really any higher thought into this, but that's just kind of the way I first observed and processed it.
That was definitely my thought, and I do not remember that arc very well. It's been a number of years since I saw it, although we did do podcasts about it, if you go back into the archives when this was the Star Wars Universe podcast. But I do remember that Palpatine says specifically that one of the reasons why he wants the scientists to study the beast is that they're basically laser proof. Like, they can't be
Mhm,
cut with lights, and even more so, they can't be hurt by lightsabers.
mhm.
And he wants to research that. And I I I thought that the beast was, like, near death by the end of it, and that there was some implication of maybe we should clone it, as a way to, and that because I thought that that
Mm.
scientist who's very involved with the Zilla Beast later becomes involved with the cloning stuff. At the very beginning, that's kind of hinted at in, the Clone Wars in terms of, like, these other cloning projects. I could be totally
Yeah.
wrong there though, but I seem to think that there was some connection there.
Yeah, so I know, like, the way the arc in the Clone Wars ended, um, Palpatine arranges it so that everyone thinks the beast has been killed,
Right.
and then he transports it away. My
Mhm.
understanding at the end of the arc is that it was fully healthy. It was just simply stunned that entire time, and
Oh,
now
that's
they
possible.
were there to just, like, figure out how to clone it. But yeah, his initial kind of goal was
Mhm.
his excuse that he told the Republic was that it was to study durable armor for the Grand Army of the Republic, basically.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's where that kind of comes from. The Doctor, I don't remember any specifics if the Doctor from the Clone Wars is included
Yeah.
in different aspects of the Clone Wars, if the Zillo Beast Doctor. Wait, yeah, I'm pretty sure we see her again. I don't really remember in what capacity, but I'm pretty certain we see
Mhm.
that scientist
Yeah.
again. Um,
Yeah, I thought she was involved in the Fives, chip plot, but I could be all wrong. Do you remember who are the clones who are, like, most featured in the Zilla Beast, episodes? Because if it's not, like, Rex or someone like that, I'm wondering if we'll see one of those clones show up again.
I mean, it was Rex and Cody, I believe.
Was it? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, I think it was.
Well, we do
Um,
have Cody off somewhere, so
Facts.
all sorts of questions. Now, am I right? This is the final season that they've announced for the show, or is that gonna be? Have they not announced that?
No, it is the final season,
Okay, so we're
which makes
coming
me
up on
want
the
to cry.
final 2 episodes. How do you think they're gonna wrap all this up?
I don't know. I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I don't want to know.
I I have to believe they know how successful and how important these characters and this part of the story is to people.
Mhm.
And we're getting the Acolyte, we're getting Tales of the Empire. I would be amazed if this is the last we saw of these characters. Um,
Yeah.
and it may well be that it's become because we still don't know like what happens to Rex in the period between this and when him and Wolf and Gregor wind up on a planet chasing those, big animals.
Yeah, and
We don't
Rebels.
we don't know what happened to Cody. Um, we haven't seen like there still are a ton of clones in the Imperial Army.
Yeah.
Um, so it's gonna be bittersweet whatever they do. I have some thoughts about how it might end that are probably gonna, we've discussed before, but I I have to believe we're gonna continue to see, some element of this story going forward, and whether that's, I mean, oh, I just thought of this, but like how people have always talked about like a Ventress Ahsoka show, like as a like,
Mhm.
screwed up buddy cop would have been fun.
Mhm.
What if we get a Ventress Omega show?
That would be a whole nother level
Like
of
they brought
attitude.
they brought back Ventress. They did not in any way explain how she's back. I can't believe that's the only way they're going to use her,
Yeah.
right?
That could be fun. That would be a lot of fun. I don't know what they're gonna do next because I agree with you that it's like they've put so much effort and time into this time period and like the
Mhm.
building of everything with like Echo and Rex. I would also be pretty surprised if they just kind of move on and start diving into like the High Republic and the post Empire period. I'd be super surprised if there wasn't anything else. And I almost wonder if maybe we're gonna see animation follows that time trail more than live action does.
That's certainly possible.
Um, just because at this point, if you're telling stories that involve characters that have already been told before, um,
Right.
it's easier to do that in animation than try to do, like bring back live action actors from the original prequels and do
Well,
de-aging. Although they made it work for the Ahsoka show.
right. But like I feel like if you have a show about non-clones and Wolf and Rex or something like that, you can
Mhm.
DH to Tamora Morrison perhaps. But as good an actor as I think Tamora Morrison is, and yes, if one actor can play multiple sides of himself, a show that's entirely built on Tamora Morrison talking to himself does not seem very sustainable. As well as
Yeah.
the fact that like those are in my head, those characters all have D. Bradley Baker's voice. So
Mhm.
and I think they've proven that Star Wars uh Star Wars animation is really possible. So it is really popular. Darth Maul has come into the chat to say he will avenge us. I'm not sure who is avenging who, but I do believe in the Avengers. So I hope they use He further says, I hope they use Inquisitors or Darth Vader himself to face the Zillo Beast. It would be epic. That would be kind of awesome, like as a
That
way
would
to
be
like
fucking sick.
show because we now know. I mean, because this is with the Zillo Beast, we now know that like we are following the timeline of the Clone Wars as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, like it could be a whole plot point, but also just imagine like most of the episode is the escape and all the Bad Batch stuff and their stuff. And we know that they leave with the Zilla Beast like running crazy around Mount Tantus. And
Mhm.
then the final post-credit scene is, one of those people on the base being like, what are we going to do about this thing? And it opens and there's the Grand Inquisitor or Darth Vader saying like,
Mhm.
we got this. Don't worry. Oh, that's a great
If
idea,
we
Darth
just
Maul.
get oh my god, my favorite is when they do, like, the POV, so you see, like, a ship door open and look out at
Mm-hmm.
the Imperial people, and maybe there's, like, a red glow and just, like, the Vader breath.
Oh yeah.
That would go crazy.
Well, because I would love to see how did the Inquisitors get started. We saw some
I
about
am
them,
curious about that, yeah.
but the Obi-Wan stuff is set many years later. Um, maybe one of those kids, you know, that is trying to help becomes the first Inquisitor. Not the Grand Inquisitor,
No.
but so we'll see.
First.
What else about this episode did you want to comment on or talk about?
Um, Jinkies. Well, we got some lovely little comedy with Rampart. Oh, let's talk about Rampart because we left off, for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but, um, Rampart kind of got separated from the group as the Imperials were chasing down the batch through the forest. Also, he woke up a big scary beast. So like great job, Rampart. We're so proud of you. Not. Um but yeah, so we see him be found by the Imperials, but we don't see what's next. So we kind of end the episode with we have our two characters that we were like unsure about, right? Emery and Rampart. Where are they going to go in these next few episodes here? So Emery seems to be leaning towards helping the batch. We ended the episode with her saying to Echo, I can help you free these children, but you're going to have to trust me. And then we
Mm-hmm.
also have Rampart, who ended the episode being kind of captured by the Imperials. And it's interesting because he had some kind of like discourse with Crosshair this episode
Mm-hmm.
about Crosshair being like, or Rampart saying to Crosshair, this isn't like you. You were always only for yourself. You used to be a good soldier. You used to follow orders. And
Yeah. He
Crosshair was
sa-
just like, that's not me anymore.
yeah, and he says she was there for me, which I think is really beautiful, especially because he knows that it's happening. It's not about that like when I was at my best. It's that when he was at his worst, she was still there for him, and he
Mhm.
feels he owes her now. And I just thought, yeah, I definitely teared up at that moment.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was I'm interested to see where that goes because 'cause we're getting a lot from Crosshair too. Like, I can't remember. I think it was Rampart he was talking to. It might have been
Mm-hmm.
Wrecker though, about like, "Oh, last time you were here, you broke out. Now, like, how do you feel being back breaking in?" Um, or no, that's what it was. "Are you sure you're going in the right direction? Like, are you sure you know where the space is?" Crosshair was like,
Mm.
"Yes, I'm sure. This is not a place you would forget." And it pans down and shows like he like took his right hand off of the handle of the gun and like kind of shook it because it was like shaking and tweaking and then he like grabbed it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope we get in these next two episodes because I believe they're both dropping next week. I hope that we get a little bit of knowledge on that.
Yeah.
Like what is up with Crosshair's tremor?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have any sort of connection to the way that Hemlock holds his hand and has a glove on his right hand? I'm very curious about it. So I hope
Yeah.
we get some
Well,
insight and answers.
especially because Like this new doctor, the woman who's not Emery, her just utter detachment and again, it's not malice. It's like it's not mwahaha, let's torture these kids. It's just
Mhm.
the way a scientist might look at a lab rat, And
Mhm.
there are clearly people who can do that, both with lab rats and with actual humans.
Mhm.
And that's terrifying, but I know that it exists. But it is still hard to swallow, especially in that two people would do that so close to each other. And so I do wonder if maybe, yeah, there is some kind of thing that's happening to people like Hemlock that is, or maybe not to Hemlock, but to her. Well, I don't know. Like, what the Empire knows that it can do some kind of mind control stuff. So
Mhm.
who knows? So
Who knows? I'm very
exciting
curious
stuff.
to see.
Yeah, I have so much to look forward to, but I feel like I don't have much to say about this episode because mostly it's just like give us the damn next episodes.
It's a lot of setup and a lot of getting the right people in the right places. And I like the way
Yeah.
we spread things out, like having, a little team Echo and Emery, having our little
Mhm.
team of the rest of the boys, our little team of Omega and the kids.
Yeah.
Um, I like that kind of vibe
I
going
like
into
it.
the finale.
I I really want them all to get together by the end of the episode. But I mean, pre-early, like I would hope at least by the end of this is going to be a two-parter, at least by the end of the first episode.
Yeah, no, I personally don't doubt that they will, but it's like I love to see a finale or a big problem taken on by a bunch of little teams that like meet up in the middle and then they take on the big bad together.
Yeah,
So that's kind of what I'm envisioning and hoping for this finale
yeah.
next week.
I think that's possible. I think it's
We'll
possible.
see.
Well, listeners, as always, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think is coming in the next two episodes. If somehow you've gotten spoiled on it, please don't let us know. But we will be back. We're hoping to get a couple other guests lined up because this is going to be a big deal for the end of the Star Wars Generations run. We're also, of course, going to have Alex back, and we'll probably do a couple of look back episodes, both immediately afterwards and in the weeks to come. So please check all that out. Of course, all the feedback is just by looking on our website or our show notes, or if you just search for Star Wars Generations or Star Wars Generations podcast, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all those places, you're going to find us. So please check
Mhm.
all that out. Please think seriously about becoming a member. Our members get bonus content, which we're going to be back on the stories from a certain point of view and talking about a very well known scene and why it is that a certain bar doesn't allow droids. We don't like their kind in here. Why is that? Members are about to find out. Become a member now, and you can find out too. All that's in the show notes on the website. Thank you all so much. We have spoken.
Stay classy, Mount Tantus. Did Rampart make it? Unfortunately, yes.
That line was so good. That line was so good.